Here's my note card, and here is my audience. Okay. Hi, my name is Rhett Castle, and this is my informative speech on how computer systems work. American businessman Steve Ballmer once said, "Computer science is the operating system for all of innovation." I got that from azquotes.com. And I really resonate with that quote because I've been using computer systems my entire life. Ever since I was a kid, I was playing video games on the Wii, and I grew up and I started building computers and researching how they worked to study them and play games like Fortnite. And we even use them now with our phones and do homework on them now. And computers have millions of things that they can do at one time. But 3 points that I'm going to talk about today are how a computer powers on, how a user inputs into the computer, and how the computer outputs back to the user. So first thing I'm going to talk about is powering on a computer. So when you click the start button, the power supply gets electric current sent into it, which sends out to the motherboard to turn on the entirety of the computer. It turns on the accessories of your computer, like the monitor and the keyboard, but essentially the whole computer gets turned on. And inside the computer, there's a system called the BIOS, which gets turned on and then goes and turns on the operating system to your computer, which most of the time would be Windows or Linux, or on your phone, which would be Apple's operating system. And with that, the user can start playing around with it, which leads me to my next point, which is inputting data and information into the computer. There's lots of ways to input into a computer, like using a keyboard or using a mouse like this, or a microphone, or on your phone, which would just be tapping it. So I'll start with the keyboard. When you press the keys on the keyboard, it turns into binary code, which then sends into the computer, which displays it onto the screen. The next thing I want to talk about is the mouse. The mouse is actually pretty interesting because all mouses have a little sensor at the bottom of them, which takes thousands of pictures at one time, which then the computer takes these thousands of images and then displays them. It tells the computer which way your mouse is moving. And when it comes to clicking on a mouse, it sends electric shocks and currents to the computer, which then tells the computer that it's clicking. And the last one I'll talk about is a microphone. And microphones are pretty interesting because what happens is your voice gets turned into sound waves, which get turned into data, which gets sent into an audio jack, which then get put into the computer, which it turns into data, and then pretty much it can take that data and tells, or I guess on the other end would be output to the computer, which you could hear. Which leads me to my next point, which is how computers use and give output back to the user. There are also lots of outputs for the computers. Some examples are your monitor, your headphones, and things like printers. So when you have a monitor, your computer has a GPU, which is plugged into the monitor, which is, the GPU is a graphics card, which is plugged into the monitor. It takes lots of images, thousands of images a second, displays them through the HDMI cord, and then exports them out onto the monitor, which the user can see. When it comes to headphones, which you can hear, it's just the inverse of a microphone, which it takes data from the computer, extorts it through a wire and turns it into sound waves for the user to hear. And when it comes to printers, they're actually pretty interesting because the user selects a file. That file is transported through Wi-Fi most of the time, or through a cord, and then is given to the printer that takes that data and reads it, and then puts it onto a piece of paper for the user. So yeah, those are 3 ways that how computers work. I think it's pretty fascinating how computers work, and I think that everybody should learn how computers work because they are the future. And I think a good way to start is knowing how they power on, how a user gives input into a computer, and how it gives output to the user. So yeah, thank you for watching.